Welcome back to dennypark English Reading Show. I'm going to introduce you to The Diary of a Wimpy Kid, The Getaway by Jeff Kenny. Do you remember I read you when Wimpy Kid got on the train? I mean the airplane? Yeah, now Wimpy Kid is driving off in the plane into his vacation set. Vroom, vroom. Now let's explore this book together again and find out what happens. Let's read this book together. Go, go, go! But right before the door closed, one more couple got on board. And they had a baby with them. I didn't think these people would be in my row because there was only 2 empty seats, but the baby sat on mother's lap. See, if I were in charge of the airplane, the rule would be 1 person in pair seats. Because if the couple had twins, it would be completely out of hand. I asked his parents if one of them wanted to switch seats with me so they could be next to each other. But the mother said she liked the window, and her husband said she liked to be on the aisle. Right after that, the pilot came on the intercom. He said that before we took off, we'd be on a brief safety video to show us what to do in case if an emergency. I was already nervous about flying to begin with, but I didn't hear there might be an emergency. So when the safety video started, I paid attention. But as far as I can tell, I was the only person who did. Everybody else completely turned out. The beginning of the video was just basic stuff, like how to fasten a seatbelt. After that, it got serious. The video narrator said that if was a loss in cabin pressure, oxygen mask would drop from the ceiling. Well, I don't know that cabin pressure is, but I didn't think hearing that we might lose it. The people in the video didn't look bothered at all. And the oxygen mask dropped down, though in fact they looked kind of happy about it. Then the video got even worse. The narrator said that in case of a water landing, we'd need to evacuate the plane. So I was really freaked out. I thought the whole point about the airplane was that it was supposed to stay in the air. The safety video said there were emergency exits on the plane and the people sitting in the extra rows will need to open the doors so everybody could get out. The emergency exit was 1 row behind me, and I recognized the people sitting there wasn't paying attention to the video at all. So I got them to put down their magazine and listen. The flight attendant didn't seem bothered that no one was watching the safety video. I figured they probably had their own exits. So if there was any trouble, I was going to follow them. The video showed the plane in the water with inflatable slides coming off the emergency exits, and they actually made it look fun. And the video said our seat cushions doubled as flotation devices, and each one had a whistle attached to it. Now I had questions, so I pressed a button near my seat to get the flight attendant to come over. What I wanted to know was, if we landed in the shark-infested waters, would it really be such a good idea to blow the whistle? It felt to me like we'd basically even inviting the sharks over for a free lunch. The flight attendant said I didn't need to worry because all the seat cushions are covered with sharp repellent, so they couldn't come near us. I was pretty happy to hear that. But now I'm wondering if he was pulling my leg. I don't really get the pilot of the whistles though. It's not like anybody's gonna hear them if you're in the middle of the ocean. And if you're lucky enough to have a cruise ship pass by, believe me, those guys aren't stopping to pick you up. After the CP video was over, I felt exhausted, and we didn't even take off yet. But a few seconds later, the plane started rolling down the tarmac, and the next thing I knew, we were in the air. I'm not gonna lie, I had my eyes shut during the whole takeoff, and I didn't even recognize I was holding my breath until I almost passed out. Once I leveled out, the couple sitting in my row started feeding their baby. I was already nervous from the takeoff, and the smell of mushy peas didn't help things. Here comes the coochie coo! I thought I might actually throw up, but I didn't know what to do. Then I noticed this white paper bag in the seat pocket in front of me, and I figured out that's exactly what it's for. The flight attendant already seemed annoyed with me, though, so I knew I wouldn't be too happy if I landed him a big vomit. Here you go! Somehow I managed to get through the feeding without throwing up, but I wish I could say the same for the baby. Blatch! After the lady cleaned up, she reached into her bag and gave her baby a couple of toys to play with. One of the toys was a plastic hammer, and as soon as the baby got that thing in his hand, he started to pound on the window. Thunk, thunk, thunk. I've heard that in the window on a plane breaks, everything gets sucked outside, and that didn't really seem like a good way to go. Now, when the lady's head was turned, I swapped the hammer from the baby and tucked it under my seat. Unfortunately, that set the baby off. It turns out nobody likes a crying baby on the plane, and anyone starts shooting us dirty looks. Luckily, the lady had a bottle on her back. That quietened the kid down for a while. I was getting kind of hungry myself, so I pressed out the button on the flight attendant and asked when we could expect to get feed. But he said meals are only for first-class passengers, and he gave me a bag of peanuts to tide me over. That's when I remembered the snacks I bought before we got on the plane. But then I remembered they were in my carry-on bag, which was thrown down below. I guess Mom must have been thinking about food too, because as soon as the pilot said we had reached our cruising height landed, and we were free to move about the cabin, Mom unbuckled her seatbelt and went up to the first class with men, just in time for dinner. I felt something cold and clammy touch my left elbow. And then something else touched my right one. The guy behind me had taken off his shoes and socks and slipped his feet through the spaces between my seats. So I guess this guy decided it was okay to use my armpits or just put twists. I was starting to feel boxed in, and then the person in the seat in front of me tightened the seat all the way back, so it was just a few inches from my face. I tried to clip my seat back, but I couldn't find the button to it. So I called the flight attendant and asked him where the button was, but he told me the seats in our row didn't tilt back because they'd blocked the emergency row. So I started to sweat. I thought I'd read a magazine to take my mind off feeling trapped. But the only thing in the seat pockets there was catalogs for all the stuff no one needs. Dun-dun-dun. Pizza blanket, nighttime carvings, satisfied with them with the pizza blanket, able betting that warm and tasty. Coming pepperoni, extra cheese, and anchovies. Snooze when you just can't sit through that boring meeting. Snooze's classes make you look wide awake, even when you're anything but. Foam bubble! Protect your phone on the rainy days with this clear plastic bubble. The people on the other side of me were watching a movie, so I figured I'd turn my screen on and check it out. The movie looked like a comedy, but my headphones were in the bag. And it was hard to understand what was going on without them. Ha ha ha! Ha ha ha! I changed the channel to see what else there was to watch. One channel had a show about little kids. The baby next to me got interested in what's on my screen. And when I changed it something else, the baby started boiling. When I changed the channel back, the baby stopped crying. I guess I wouldn't been okay with letting the kid watch the show, but the screen was way too close to my face. And the clothes on the show were so bright that even when I put on my eye mask, they was in the seat pocket. I could still see everything that was happening. When the show finally ended, the baby started crying again. There was no way I was gonna keep watching the show on the repeat for the rest of the night. So I decided it was perfect time to take my shift off in the first class. But Roger noticed I was trying to make a move, and he got out of his seat before I had the chance to. And notice he was up in first class. I knew I'd have to wait a while before I could swap places with him. When Mom and Manny came back to their seats, I knew the door on the cockpit opened behind them, and the pilot stepped out. I thought there was some kind of emergency, so I pressed the button and asked the flight attendant what was going on. He said the pilot just needed to scratch his legs and use the bathroom, and the co-pilot had everything under control. I didn't like the fact that we were down on the pilot, even if it's just for a few minutes. Personally, I didn't think 2 pilots is enough, even when they're both in the cockpit. I guess the idea is that one of them has a heart attack and the other is supposed to fly the plane. But I asked the flight attendant what was happening if the other pilots freaked out and had a heart attack too. The flight attendant told me not to worry, because these planes are so high-tech they can practically fly themselves. Well, I've heard pilots make a lot of money, so if what the flight attendant was saying is true, then this would be the career for me. Once the pilot got out of the bathroom, I figured it would be a good idea for me to go too. The only problem was the man to my right was asleep, so I couldn't get over the guy without waking him up. So I went under him, and behind me that wasn't a lot of fun. Once I was settled to the bathroom, I figured there was no reason to go back to my seat. So whenever someone else came along with it, I just made bathroom noises until they went away. One person must really need to go because they shook the door handle so hard that I thought it might be break off, but they went away. But a few minutes later, the whole bathroom shook. Whoever this one needed to use the toilet a lot more than I did, so I opened the door. But there was no one there. That's when I recognized it wasn't just the bathroom shaking, it was the whole plane. I thought it must landed in the water or lost an engine or something. But then the pilot came over the intercom. Ah ha ha, folks, we just hit a little patch on the bumpy chair. Didn't sound right to me. I figured what really happened was that the pilot fell asleep in his seat and kicked the steering wheel or something. And then he came up with this bumpy air excuse, because that's exactly what I do if I were at the same station. I guess the flight attendant could see that I was pretty rattled. He said we were just going through a turbulence, which was perfectly normal for the flight like this. Well, this kind of thing is normal, that there's no way I'm never becoming a pilot, because if I were flying the plane, I'd be out of there in the first sign of trouble. The flight attendant told me I needed to turn to my seat and buckle up, but when I got back there, I was already occupied. I didn't want to move the baby because I knew it could just wake up and started crying again. So I went to the front of the plane to kick Roderick out of first class and let him deal with the baby. But I couldn't get to him. One of the wheels on the drink trolleys had broken because of the turbulence, and it was blocking my way. Out of the opinions, so I went back to my seat. Don't ask me how, but I was actually able to get an hour or two of sleep. And I was so tired I didn't even wake up when we landed. Tuesday. Wimpy Kid had landed in the vacation set. If you want to read Wimpy Kid's The Getaway again with me, all you have to do is just search like this in the YouTube. dennypark English Reading Show Wimpy Kid. And then you can read Tuesday with me. And please put a good sign on my video and subscribe my videos. Thank you. See you later. Bye bye.